Hello. It's 1 o'clock in Toronto, and I think 10 a.m. on the West Coast. So we're going to get started while people are joining. So thanks for joining our office hours session today. Today we're talking about something really exciting, which is Canny Ideas, something we've been working on for the last little while. So I'm going to give you a bit of an intro about how this session will work, and then I'll pass it over to Julia. So this session is a little bit longer than our previous sessions. It's going to be about half an hour of us talking, and then we've left a lot of time for questions, live questions and answers, because this is new concept. So I had a lot of questions when we introduced it internally, so I'm sure you'll all have questions too. So during the presentation, there is a Q&A box. So feel free to please insert your questions as we go. Sarah and I will answer them as best we can. If we feel like there's a juicy question that everybody would benefit from hearing the answer to, we'll save that for later and we'll give it to Julia at the end of the session. I've said session a lot of times. What else am I going to say? So we're recording this. You'll all get a recording sent to you this week. You'll also get a copy of the slide deck. Yeah, I think that's all. We're going to move to intros. Thank you, Julia. So I'm Claire. I should have said that at the beginning. I'm our head of ops. We have the lovely Julia and Sarah with us. So Julia is our customer success manager. So she mostly, well, she only manages our business and enterprise accounts. So I'm sure there are some of you who have been to these sessions before, but the idea behind it is we want you to really hear from Julia about the kind of expertise that she brings to those high value customers so that all customers who use Canny can get those insights. And Sarah is our support and implementation engineer. If you've ever had a tricky technical question, you've come through support, she is most likely the person who solved your problems. And she solves a lot of my problems internally too. So that's the team today. I'm going to hand it over to Julia and enjoy the session.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire. I like how all of us Canny folks are wearing gray turtlenecks today. That's great in uniform. Um, Amazing. I'm so excited to walk you through this new feature. As Claire mentioned, we've been working on it for a little while now, so we're really excited to share it with you. Just so you know, we will be recording this call and we will send you the recording and the slides after this call. Please feel free to take screenshots, take notes, but just know that we'll send this information to you afterwards. In today's call, we are going to review this new feature, how it works, how it can help you organize your internal workflow, organize your feedback a little bit better, um, and prioritize it more effectively as well. There's a lot to cover and there's a lot of new little changes. So let us know if you have any questions along the way. As Claire mentioned, we do have this Q&A functionality, so please be sure to utilize that to ask Claire and Sarah any questions as we go along. And as mentioned, lots of time at the end, so we'll make sure we answer all of your questions. Great, let's jump into it. Okay, so what is this new feature that we're releasing? We are introducing a new feature called Ideas, and it's meant to help you manage feedback internally. It's built on a hierarchy structure that uses parent-child relationships to help you organize related ideas. You can think of it as an internal workspace where your product team can group, prioritize, act on feedback without changing what your customers see. So today, it can be a little bit tricky to plan for larger initiatives. And it's hard to break them down into smaller, trackable pieces. So here's an example. A customer might submit a piece of feedback that says, we want reporting. And while to the customer, that might appear, as a very easy single request, makes a lot of sense. To us PMs, as we know, it often is a really broad initiative made up of many smaller tasks. And right now, there's no real structured way within Canny to show those smaller ideas and connect them to a larger theme. At the moment, of course, we have boards, we have categories, we have tags, and of course, these are really helpful tools. But boards and categories are public facing, so There are limits to how closely they can reflect your internal structure, and sometimes tagging systems can get a little bit convoluted. You might, for example, want to group ideas by, initiative, by team, by project phase, but by doing so, it may impact the way that things appear to your customers. So this is the problem we're trying to solve. This is one of the challenges we are working on, which is we're trying to solve giving you a bit more flexibility to manage your feedback in a way that matches your team and how you actually work, without overcomplicating anything for your end users, your customers. So let's dive into the hierarchy portion of this feature. So we are introducing a few new building blocks to make this possible. Number one, we're introducing a new concept called groups. Groups are meant to represent higher level initiatives, areas of your product, themes, or any kind of large projects you're working on. They are meant to organize related feedback in one area, and you can think of groups as a folder. In groups, you can create subgroups. Subgroups help to organize sub-features, the common themes within that product, or focus area within that group. Another concept we're introducing is called ideas. Ideas represent action items, to-do lists, or feature requests. Ideas are internal facing, but can have an external view. An idea can also have a sub-idea. And a sub-idea is a smaller piece of work that supports or builds on a larger idea. And finally, there are insights. This is a new concept as well. Insights are basically evidence as to why we should prioritize something. So they're basically like individual pieces of feedback, comments that inform or support an idea. This is a lot, I understand. We're going to go through it all in more detail. Okay, so let's jump into groups and subgroups first. So as mentioned, groups are like folders, and they're meant to represent higher level initiatives, product areas, or features of your product. It could represent teams. So in my demo space, EcoZoom, which is an eco-friendly transportation app, we have our groups organized by the area of our product. So we have a group for transportation, navigation. These are all areas of EcoZoom. Then you'll notice we have subgroups. And again, subgroups are optional subdivisions within a group to further organize related work. So in my EcoZoom space, I would have a subgroup like e-bike, e-scooter, etc., which are under the transportation group because they relate to that area of product. For each group and each subgroup, you add a description. This is going to help with auto sorting later on, which we will dive into more depth in a moment. An idea is the core unit of work your team manages in Canny. It represents a feature, improvements, a task. It is meant to have clear deliverables that tie back to the feedback. So you can think of it as an internal version of a user's request, a bridge between feedback and the roadmap, or something your team can prioritize, plan, and track progress on. So, for example, using this EcoZoom demo space again, we have a feature request called supercharge stations for e-bikes. That's a feature. So this would live under the subgroup e-bikes because it's related to that area, under the overarching umbrella of transportation in the transportation group. Under ideas, we can have sub-ideas. Sub-ideas break a larger concept into smaller, more actionable pieces of work. They help your team plan, track, and prioritize on a more detailed level. So each sub-idea can have its own owner, timeline, etc., while still rolling up to the main idea. So, for example, a sub idea of this feature supercharge station for e-bikes could be um, add station availability map, which is like a task that we need to do that relates to this larger task. Sub ideas build out the full experience. It's meant to build out the full experience behind that request. On an idea, you can have an insight. And as mentioned, insights are basically evidence as to why this feature should be prioritized. This is where maybe your internal team can submit feedback or add comments that or feedback that they capture from their customers. Again, this is strictly internal facing and is meant to give your team the full context behind your users' needs, pain points, and the business impact. Okay, so how does this work? One important thing to note is that your public portal is not changing. Nothing's changing there for your customers. So your customers can submit feedback through the portal using boards and categories, just as they do today. When a customer submits a piece of feedback, it shows up internally as an idea. That idea becomes a single record that your team will work from. And behind the scenes, it will automatically be grouped based on the hierarchy you have in place and the descriptions that you have set up for each group. So for example, if a customer submits feedback that says, we want better bike battery, Canny will automatically create an idea and then group it under the relevant product area, which in this case is e-bikes. So our AI will look at like things like the text, description, the title, the board it was submitted on, and match it to the right group using keywords and the descriptions that you've added. Now, an idea can be viewed and edited in two ways, internally or externally. The internal view is where your team works. You can add insights, as we mentioned. You can update fields, manage priorities, and all of this stays private to your team. The external view is what customers see in your feedback portal. Anything you modify here can be viewed publicly. It's all one idea. You're just switching between what's visible internally and what's visible externally. And this gives you a single source of truth for managing feedback while still being able to share progress transparently with your customers. Whereas before, this should look familiar. We have one post where all work, regardless if it's internal or external, is done here in this one view. So yeah, really ideas are just one entity with two different views. However, you are also able to create an idea internally. So here we are, we're creating a brand new idea. Of course, this was not submitted by a customer. We're creating this idea in our backend. And we can see when we click in here, there's only an internal view created here. If we want to make it external facing, we would need to click on Create Post. And here we would fill out the details to create this external facing view. Now you'll have all the details you had before, all the default details like owner, status, all the custom details you've created, like I'm highlighting here. But it will show up on the internal view. And then when I jump into the public view, I will only see the fields that I know are going to be external facing to my customers. So the ETA category, etc. Every idea has two possible views. Just to kind of reiterate and bring it home and break it down a little bit better. So every idea has two possible views, an internal view and an external view. You can create a new piece of feedback internally as an idea. It will remain internal only unless you choose to create an external representation of it. At that point, it becomes obviously visible to anyone who has access to that board externally. And when a customer submits a piece of feedback, that creates an idea with two faces, which is either internal or external. So you can see my fun little flow chart here. Okay, so let's put it all together. So your customer wants to submit a piece of feedback. What does that look like? So they'll head over to the public portal, do the exact same thing they always do, choose the right board, choose the right category, submit their feedback. In this example, we're submitting feedback related to maps and routes. Because the feedback includes the keywords maps and routes or routes, which matches the description of our navigation group, we can see that this piece of feedback automatically creates an idea, and then it's auto sorted into the navigation group as seen here. So here's the idea. You'll notice it has two views. The internal view, which is where your team can plan your work. And we have the external view, which is the public post. This is where your customers can, add their votes. They can see everything here, your customers. The internal view, we can add sub-ideas. We can add insights. So for example, I can add an insight that says, we need this for customer X. We can also vote on a user level, company level, or both. And notice that this insight is only internal facing. If we switch into the external view, you won't see that insight we've just created. However, if you want to communicate with your end users and give them updates on what's coming down the pipeline, etc., or if you want to make comments public, you can still do that. You can leave an external comment. So for example, I'm leaving a comment here, maybe to inform my customers of an update with this particular feature. And you'll see that it shows up on the public post right away. So we can validate that here. Now we can also create ideas internally as mentioned. So here I am, we're going to create a brand new idea from the admin side. So we'll type in the little title here. This is a new idea. And when we click into the post, you'll see it's strictly internal facing. It's only when we click create post that it becomes external facing. So now my customers will be able to see this feedback once it's submitted, and they can add their comments, their votes, etc. And we can also validate this too if we want to just double check. We can just copy this name here. We'll jump into the public facing view, and voila, you can see it's been added accordingly. Here it is. Okay, so let's talk about how we can organize our feedback with ideas. So first, let's review fields. So in this photo, it should look familiar to you. This is a post in Canny today. So as you know, all the details pertaining to a particular post show up on the right-hand side of the post. So any of the default details, any of the custom details you create, or tags as well. Here we are in our ideas view again. All of those fields that you are used to and you've been working on will still remain. So any of the default fields, like status owner, any of the custom fields, that will show up as well. And instead of creating tags, you would just create a field for it. So we're kind of removing tags, but not really, because you would just create a field for it instead. To create a new field, you would click on the field, create new field, and here you can choose how you want that field to show up. So do we want it to show up as a rating, a checkbox, as a text, etc.? So you can choose. And let's say I wanted to set up a tagging system within Ideas. I would, for instance, maybe choose create new field. I would choose a text field, and then I would use that to represent my tagging system. And fields are helpful because I'm able to prioritize my work easily. So I can toggle on specific data points such as owner, due date, urgency, and I can create, and then I can, kind of go through it and add in the fields, fill it out accordingly. I can create new impact factor fields. So for example, I'm creating a new one here called impact to measure my estimation of how this feature might impact my customers. And here I'm able to score it as well. And voila, I'm able to score all my work and prioritize my work easily. Canny is introducing something called views. And they are meant to help your team manage feedback more effectively. So we've created a few default views for you. So if you do join our beta, you'll see one for triage, which is any new feedback that you have not yet reviewed. You'll see one for backlog, which is ideas that you have reviewed but not yet prioritized. And then you'll see a roadmap view, which is ideas that you are actively working on or actively prioritizing. Views are built on filters and toggling fields, and you can customize or create additional views based on your team's needs. So similar to the roadmap view within Canny that you see right now, you're able to add in fields to help you prioritize, understand your feedback a little bit better. So you can kind of think of views as almost like roadmaps. So let's say I want to create a view to only see the ideas that I'm working on. So I would create a view, let's say it's Julia's view, and I would filter based on the owner. And then anything that's assigned to me will populate here in this view I've created called Julia's view, but I can filter on different attributes too in different fields like the due date, group, any custom field I've created. So you can really customize this view. We have also improved our scoring functionality within Canny. So now you're able to create multiple scores based on multiple fields. So for example, I can create a rice score here, and I'm using the reach field and the impact field to help me generate a score as seen here. And then I can go through and add my estimation of things or see my score here, but I'm also able to create multiple scores. So I could have a score for rice, I could have a score for Moscow, whatever product methodology you subscribe to. So what's the best way to set up groups? We recommend setting them up either by the features of your product, by product, if you have that too, by higher level initiative projects that you're working on. And our recommendation for setting up subgroups is either by the sub features, by team, or by the themes found within that feedback. So just to go over an example again, within EcoZoom, that eco-friendly transportation app, I have a group called transportation. And then my subgroups are e-bike, e-scooter, car share. And these are all features within that area of my product. And you might be wondering, do I need to change my board setup? And the answer is no. If it's working for your customers and it's working for your team, you can keep them as they are now. Our recommendation has always been to organize your boards either by the product features that you offer or by the type of feedback that you expect to receive. So a board for feature enhancement, bug requests, stuff like that. The goal for boards is always to keep it very simple for your customers so they can submit feedback easily. If you are on the Pro plan, you are able to join our beta. You'll see a little update alert in your Canny space at the top of your nav bar. So if you click on that, you'll have the opportunity to join the beta, or of course, reach out to one of us here to our little support channel, and we will assist with joining the beta or answer any questions you have. That was our little presentation on this new feature that we're launching. I'm sure there's lots of questions. So perhaps we can start going through that.
Absolutely. That's my job. Great. Well, we just got a question in, so we can answer this one live. The question is, will there be an additional charge for this? And I guess I'll add, is there additional charges for different plans as well?
Not at this moment. No, there's no additional charge for ideas.
Great. Answer live. I'll turn that on. And Sarah is currently answering, but I think this is a question that I definitely had when we introduced ideas. So I'm sure everybody would like to hear the answer to this. What's the difference between posts that we know now and ideas and insights?
Good question. Sorry, Do you want to answer if you're in the middle of answering?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. So posts essentially stay as is. They continue to be the user-facing piece of feedback that you currently have in the portal. But back to what Julia was saying, the idea is really the internal view of that post. And so, and I every time a post gets created, Julia showed us this. What happens is the post gets created in the portal, and at the exact same time, an idea gets created in your idea database or idea dashboard. And so you as a team now get to decide every time you want to change this particular piece of feedback. Is it something that you want only your internal team to know about, or is it something that you want your external users to know about? So an example is if you had your CEO let you know that enabling offline map downloads is the highest priority for the company right now. You want to make sure the rest of your team knows that and that it contributes to how you score this particular piece of feedback so that your team can work on it. What you can do is you can go into your ideas view and add it as an insight. And that way, that could be, my CEO cares about this. It's an additional piece of feedback that matters to that insight, but your end customers don't need to know about that, or you don't want them to know about that. And so that's something that you would change on your internal view. Versus if you have a customer that let you know that they care about enabling offline map downloads and you want to track their interest and you want them to know that you tracked it, you would then add it as a comment or as a vote on the post. So if you add it as a vote on the post, your customer can then go look at that post and know that you have added their vote on there. And anytime you update that post, they'll get a notification. And so that's something that you would do in the external view. And so it's less about the difference between the two of them, and it's essentially one idea, but it's how you interact with it that differs. So you interact with the idea for anything internal, and you interact with the post for anything that you want to communicate to your users.
Beautiful answer. Thank you. And I guess to add, if people are thinking, is this relevant to me? We had a lot of customers who were using private boards to try to make this happen, to have things kind of separate to customers, because sometimes customers don't always need to know if we change a status, et cetera. So this is trying to just make it a little bit more user friendly for that. Cool. A couple more questions just came in. One of them is, how do we know if we have beta access? I can just answer this. So if you are on the pro plan, you will either see it at the top of your Canny. When you log into Canny, there's a little bar that has updates. Or if you go into your settings tab, it should say join the beta. If you're not on the pro plan and you would like to join the beta, just message support by either emailing support@canny.io or opening up the intercom chat, and someone on the support team can just give you access. So that's how to join the beta. We have another question about how integrations will work. Who wants to take that one?
I can start, and sorry, you keep me honest with this. But we are still building out our integration. So some of them we have built out. So if you're using dev tools such as like Jira, Asana, you're able to make that connection. Um, in terms of collecting feedback, like from Slack, etc., we're still working through that connection, but that should be released fairly soon. And I think, Sarah, keep me honest here, but my understanding is that um, your internal team, let's say, is submitting feedback via Slack, they will choose a group instead of a board, and then that will be submitted as an idea and organized accordingly. Is that correct, Sarah?
Yeah, I think yeah, I don't know exactly the full details of if it's all been decided, but it will give you the flexibility to kind of dedicate which way you want to um, input the data.
Okay. Someone asked, will the API change?
We are going to make changes to our documentation to accommodate the changes with ideas. So, yes, we will update our documentation for you.
Wonderful. And Cindy, I just accidentally hit answered live and I was going to reply to you. You said that you're trialing Canny right now and you'd like to include ideas in your trial. If you reach out to support, we can turn that on for you and make sure you have enough time to trial the tool out. So for sure. Next question. Will the portal and roadmap tabs go away?
So the answer to this is eventually we would like to, the goal is to streamline everything for you and just have like one consolidated view. So eventually the goal is to move away from what you know as the feedback view and roadmap view and just consolidate it into ideas. We don't have an exact timeline on that, but that is the eventual goal.
Okay, great. I think those are all of the questions that we have. I'll give an extra minute and see if anybody else wants to ask any questions. I guess I can just add my insights on where I've found ideas helpful. It's definitely the views. So I work directly with Julia, making sure that we're engaging with our business customers correctly and, building our product in line with the feedback that we get from them. So I found it super useful because I can see all of her upcoming renewals. We can see feature requests that those customers have given us. We can see the value of those customers. And now we're able to see where that feedback fits into our wider roadmap as a team because it will fit into groups and subgroups. So I have found that super useful as someone who's not a product manager and not in product. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents. But those look like all of the questions. If there isn't anything else, Julia, Sarah, do you have anything last things to add?
Yeah, I do want to say one other thing that's neat about ideas. For anyone who's also used Autopilot, in the past, Autopilot, for anyone who doesn't know, it's our AI tool that allows you to extract feedback from your existing sources. So from your support conversations, your sales calls, your success calls, anywhere that you think there is feedback that you're leaving behind, Autopilot looks at that data for you and extracts the feedback. In the past, we had a lot of customers worry that Autopilot would extract feedback and expose it to public users when it might not have been accurate. And so to get around that, what they've done is they've created internal boards or private boards that allow Autopilot to create the data without exposing it. Now that we have ideas in place, we no longer need to worry about that because how Autopilot works is rather than creating external facing posts, it will always create internal facing ideas for you. And only when you decide to share that idea as a post will you need to. And so that's another element that kind of ties everything together here. You're now, capturing the feedback from all of your different sources, storing it in a place that's available to your internal team, and becoming a lot more specific in what you share externally based on what's most valuable for your users to know. And so hopefully that kind of helps show how ideas works with Autopilot.
Yeah, that's an important thing to mention. Thanks, Sarah.
Cool. I guess the final note is just around the fact that this is a beta. So we do want your feedback if you're going to join. Just this week, we had someone test the limit of our field count and number of fields, like internally in Canny. We don't need 50 fields, but that customer did. So we enhanced the limit for everybody within a couple of days. So our team is actively working on making ideas better, but we can only make it better when we get feedback from you. So if you're in the beta, please share that feedback. If something is weird, always share a screenshot with support. That helped us kind of triage it quicker. But I think that was everything. So I hope everybody has a restful break if you're taking one over December. We'll be back in office beginning of January, but enjoy whatever you celebrate over the December period and see you all in 2026. Bye.
Y'all